Hello there, welcome to lesson number 8 in our series on using FluidDesigner for 3D printing to create Objet d'art. Today's lesson we're going to show you how you can make a square shaped vase. So if we start FluidDesigner up, first thing we need to do is to go to Learning Projects and Objet d'art, and we're doing lesson number 8. So if you drag and drop Object 08 onto the workspace, I'm just going to switch on the screencast keys. This is the object that we're going to create in today's lesson. As you can see, it's got a square cross section. Now it hasn't actually got a base at the bottom. I'll show you how you could add a base if you wanted to, but this one hasn't. I'll also perhaps show you, and you've probably seen it in other lessons, how we can put some holes in this object as well and just give it a different appearance. But this is all we're actually going to create in today's lesson, and really all we're doing is showing you how you can use a Bezier curve and what was a Bezier circle. So what we've got here is we've got two objects. The object on the left is what's called a Bezier curve, the main body of the object, and before I can select that I need to come out of edit mode. We're in edit mode at the moment. When we can select these two control points, we're in edit mode, so I press the tab key to come out of edit mode. This is a Bezier circle, this main object here, but what I've done is I've transformed it from a circle into a square cross section. So if you wanted to create this object yourself, you'd have to go to Add Curve, and doesn't say Bezier circle here, but it's listed under Bezier. There are NURB circles as well, but this one is actually a Bezier circle, so it's this one. And the line on the left is the Bezier curve. And what we've done is we've joined the two of them together for you, so that the Bezier curve controls the Bezier circle. So if I go to view and front there, okay, so you know that the Bezier curve is selected when it says Bezier curve here. You know that the Bezier circle is selected when it says Bezier circle, but you can also look at the highlighting. You can also look at the crosshairs in the center. For the circle, for the main body here, these crosshairs are right in the center of the object. If we point at the left here and try and select the Bezier curve, notice that this circle just moves off center slightly. So that's something to take into account. Now, you use the Bezier curve, the line on the left, when you go to edit mode with the tab key on the keyboard. Now you can resize and reshape this object using the control points on the left. And you can shape it whatever size you want. And if you look in the transform panel over here, if you want to set particular values and give this a particular dimensions, we can enter in values here. But you do need to take note there is a minus sign there. The X direction is the red arrow, so minus 24 is actually the distance from this center line here, the blue line, to this point. So if I enter in minus 10 millimeters, you can see if I zoom in, it's not quite minus 10, look, it's just a little bit beyond that. Now the reason for that is that it's displaying global values. If you want exact values, we need to go local. So you can see it's actually minus 11. So if I do that again, if I do minus 10 millimeters, I always keep forgetting to change from global to local. If we do local, so you must select local here, if we do minus 10, we go to exactly that point there. If we go to minus 20, that's exactly that point. So in other words, that gives us a gap at the top there, or rather this dimension, the diagonal dimension, excuse me, of 40 millimeters, because it's 20 to the center and then another 20, so that dimension across there will be 40 millimeters. So if we go to view and front again, so if we wanted it as 60 millimeters, we'd go to minus 30 millimeters. So you do need to remember the minus there. Now this height at the moment is what, 1, 2, 3 centimeters, so 30 millimeters. It's just over 30 millimeters. If we wanted an exact height here, let's say we wanted 40 millimeters, we could type 40 mm, and notice it now goes to the point on the grid. And we could do the same with the other point as well. So let's see, it's at minus 54. Well, let's do the x first of all. The x is minus 56. So let's enter in minus 60 mm for the x, and let's enter minus 50 mm for the z value. So what that's giving us is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 centimeters, which is the same as 50 millimeters down from the red line for z. And then if we look at this point again, z is 40, 1, 2, 3, 4 up. So the total height of this at the moment is 9 centimeters or 90 millimeters. Okay, so the control point values over here, you can enter in exact values. Just depends how you want to do it. You can just drag it, that's not a problem, but you can also enter in exact values. Now if you wanted to modify this by changing the shape at some midpoint of this object, what you could do is, if we highlight the two control points, and I'm holding down the shift key on my keyboard to select the two control points, if I right click and click subdivide, what I will get is I'll get an extra new control point in the middle there, and I can now manipulate this object and change it from a straight line on this end to a curve. Now if I don't want a curve, if I want it to be straight, what I can do is, if I press A on the keyboard, that deselects the points, and A again. Now what that's done is selected all 3 control points. If I right click again, if I go to set handle type, and at the moment it's actually automatic handle type, if I switch to vector, notice that I get straight lines again. So you do have control over what this appearance will look like from point to point. You can have it as a vector, which gives you an exact straight line, or if I click right again and change handle type to automatic, you can get this rounded sort of shape. Now I don't want this control point in the middle here, so I can always delete control points by highlighting them, an X on the keyboard, and delete the vertices. These points are referred to as vertices. The segment is actually a whole line. Okay, so I want to X to delete, sorry, I want to delete the vertices. So that's taken me back to where I was before, and we've got a straight line between these 2 points now because we've got no control point in the middle. Okay, so that's how you can manipulate the object in a number of different ways. Once you're happy with the shape and the size of it, I'm going to say that that's pretty much the same as the one at the bottom. I know it's slightly different, but not to worry. Once you're happy with that, you can come out of edit mode. We're in edit mode at the moment, so press the tab key to come out of edit mode. And as we've said, this is a Bezier circle that has been changed into a square cross section by us. Now if you want to recreate this object in future, if you go to 3D templates cross sections, there is a circular cross section object there which has got the same Bezier curve and Bezier circle connected together, which you can transform in the way we've been doing this one. There's also a triangular cross section, so in other words 3 sides. And there's also the square cross section, which is exactly the same as this one here. I know this object looks a little bit different at the moment, but it isn't. It's the same as this one in essence. And so all these templates, pentagons, hexagons, you can just drag and drop them onto the workspace, and instead of just creating a square cross section, you can create a triangular vase. Okay, so we've got this Bezier circle which we've modified into a square cross section. What we now need to do is to change it from a curve. A Bezier circle is a curve. We need to change it into a mesh. And the way to change it into a mesh in FluidDesigner is to go to Tools, Object Tools, and convert it to a mesh. And if we just go to view and front again, and if we just zoom in, if we click on the Bezier curve on the left hand side, and if we go tab key to go into edit mode, and we move the control points now, notice nothing happens. They're not connected anymore because this is a curve. This is no longer a curve, it's a mesh. And so the link between the two objects has gone. So what we can do is, with this Bezier curve highlighted, we can press X on the keyboard and delete it. If we highlight the main body again, and if we press the tab key, we'll see that it's made up of meshes. Sorry, it is a mesh, sorry, and it's made up of faces. And if we wanted, we could actually put some holes in this object. So if I, first of all, I'd need to right click the mouse, and if I, at the moment we're in vertex select mode, so that's what the dots in the corner are. If we change that to face select mode, we could highlight a face, and if we press X on the keyboard, we could delete that face. And if we went round the other side of the object, now is what, 3 down, so if I click on that face there and X and delete, I could delete that face. Now I know I'm changing my finished object slightly, but I'm just showing you one or two other things that you can do. Okay, so that's what happens in edit mode with our mesh. We couldn't have done that when it was still a curve. So press the tab key to come out of that. So what we need to do now is to add some thickness to this object, and I think it's going to be 3 millimeters thick. Yeah, that's right. So to add thickness to an object, what we need to do is, in the properties panel, we need to go to the modifiers icon. That's this spanner here, and we're going to add a modifier called a solidify modifier. And if I just zoom in on the object, so at the moment this is just a thin shell, it wouldn't print. So we need to give it some thickness. So in the solidify modifier, we can change the thickness of the shell, and you can see it's making it thicker on the inside of the shell. And if we wanted to make it thicker on the outside of the shell, we need to change this offset value from -1 to +1. So when we apply thickness now, it goes on the outside of the shell. Now we just want a thickness of 3 millimeters, so that will do us. Now to confirm this thickness, we need to always in FluidDesigner go to Tools, Object Tools, and convert it to a mesh. That will apply the modifier and it will disappear from the properties window. So there we are. There's our object. Oh, I didn't tell you how to fill it in at the bottom. What I should have done is, before I converted it, before I applied the thickness, I was going to show you how to put a face in at the bottom. Well, I'll just have to explain briefly how you do it. What you'd need to do is, in vertex select mode, in edit mode, highlight the 4 points of the corners, the 4 vertices in edit mode, and press F on the keyboard, and that would have added a face. So we could have filled it in at the bottom. I'm sure you will do it in some other lesson. Okay, so it's not quite the same shape as this because I've just put in those holes just to spice it up just a tiny bit. But that's our square shaped vase now. So we can delete the original object, X on the keyboard, and delete it. And we can save this object by going to File and Save As. Go up through the menu system, My Projects Objets are, and save that as a Blender file. Now we can't print Blender files, and we always recommend that you check them anyway in Netfab Basic. So if you go to File and Export it as a wavefront object, we like to export it to the desktop while we're doing this process. And if you then go to Netfab Basic, go to Project and Open, and go to the desktop, you'll find 08 Square Vase, and that's an object file that you're opening, a printable file format. Now there are no warning red triangles here, but we always recommend you go to Extras and repair the part. And if you look, there are no problems, no border edge, no orientation, no holes. Netfab will have actually put in some of these lines here and changed the mesh into triangles, so that those two triangles there are made from what was one rectangle. When we created this hole, there was just one rectangle there. We just deleted one item on this side. Now you can see the rectangle has been broken up into two triangles, and that's needed for printing. So apply the repair and remove the old part, and then save it. So part, export the part as a wavefront object, export it to the desktop. So the repaired file is the one that you would send to the printer. Okay, so that's how you could create a square shaped vase object in FluidDesigner. Thank you.